I can't get this whole thing in the shot. Whatever, dude. Anyways, it's time to figure this out. Let me turn off the bouncing souls for a sec. Okay, hi. This video is about retrofitting Popout windows into a 73 Squareback that didn't have Popout windows. So, the first step is obviously to get Popout windows from an earlier Squareback. I can't remember the year where they stopped using them. I want to say it was before 71, but I'm not exactly sure. Maybe it's just 72 and 73 had solid windows in here. But, can I zoom out? Like, this is really... No, I can only zoom in. Great. Yeah, so, whatever. I am foobarred. Anywho, so, yeah, get your pop-out windows, take the glass out, replace the seals, all that stuff. But then you got to drill and figure out how it actually is going to hinge together and everything. And what you need is one of these. This is a Type 1 bug, I think it's a Type 1 bug, hinge for the pop-outs. And for the bug, that is. And pretty much, like, you just put it in right there, mark it, and then this acts like a hinge. You can see. Well, it's weird, like, I can see it is hinging. It's hinging properly. The weird thing about it is that this freaking thing, like, there is no hinge to it. It's just a solid piece of metal. I don't know how it works, but it works. Whatever. So, the hardest part about this whole thing, I'm told, and usually I would like to practice on another side and then come to you as a bit more of an expert, but this is the easiest side for me to do it, the passenger side, because I have the most space. So this is the easiest way for me to film it. So that's what I got to do. So I measured the gap, like from post to post, like not accounting for the curve here, but just like straight down here, and I checked on both of the frame for the pop out right here and the sill, and it is the same. It's 14 1/4. So that's the space I have to deal with on both. So that's good. I make one measurement, and it's going to be. I just have to mimic it for this side. You can see that's a really nice fit in there. So it was meant, but they decided not to. I don't know why they did that. Oh no, scratches. So basically what I got to do is I got to center this thing, center it on the sill, and then take measurements, like center it on here, take my measurements, and basically just make sure that the distance from, I'll pick a point, like there and there and there and there are the same, and then I know it's in the center. And then I just have to make those exact same measurements on the frame and put some sheet metal screws into the frame to adhere this in place. And then there's a few more steps as far as like what you got to do to this hinge has a few more parts to it. So there's more to that later. And I guess what I'll do right now is measure twice, and then measure again, and then measure again, sleep on it, and then do the actual cutting or not cutting, but drilling, and then do the actual drilling tomorrow. But for now, I'm just going to look at it, think about it, go upstairs, go to bed, and then tomorrow I'll actually do something about it. All right, so now the plate is installed onto the frame using sheet metal screws. You can obviously see the next issue here, and that is they're kind of impeding into where the glass goes, you know, and that's not obviously a good thing. So what we're going to try, very simply, is just to get a cutoff wheel on my Dremel and just cut, and hopefully these will stay in place. If not, then we have a problem, and then maybe I have to actually weld this shit together. I don't know. But that is this step. I haven't drilled into the frame of the body yet because I wanted to see just sort of how it hinges. And that's how it hinges, just based on tension, because really all the window actually opens is like that much. So it's really just the tension on the hinge is all it needs to move, because really that's it. It's just that much. So that's all. Now I'm gonna cut these off and see if they're still strong on there, and if they're still strong, then I move forward. So after cutting off a sizable portion of them, they do still screw out and screw in and hold steady. Latch still works as it should. So I think this is like some basic physics shit, like fulcrums and whatnot. Like the movement here is like multiplied further down you go, or some shit. I don't know. I fell asleep in that class, but yeah, I feel like there's some like basic physics going on here. That makes this thing work as it should. But anyways, so one thing that I'm gonna do, just in case there isn't actually I still left too much room in here for the glass to slide in and like everything else to come in here. One thing I can do to raise this screw out a little bit more is I can put little lock washers in here, which will do two things. One, it'll allow it to cinch down much like it'll allow it to be tighter and less chance of it loosening up over time. And two, it'll get this a little bit further out, which will make this whole area a little bit more flush. So I think that is a pretty good way of doing it. The one thing I do need to be slightly concerned with is the backing plate that goes in there. That's it's actually really tiny, so I'm not too concerned about it fitting in there. But, you know, it still does need to fit in there so that the bolts that go through here, whenever I drill those out, they have something to bolt into and like hold them tight. So as of now, everything's sort of going in the right direction. No real issue thus far. So I think what I'm going to do now that I have these holes drilled is now I can actually start putting the glass in there, and I can do that whole thing. So I think I'm going to start doing that. Okay guys, let's have a talk. So this window's in. You know, it's functioning properly and all that. Got that all lined up. But it's not perfect. And that bothers me. So here's the thing. So it works, but then I still have a gap, and you can maybe able to see it. Yep, there you go. There's a gap on the bottom corner there. And that's the only place where a gap exists on this entire window. And that sucks. You know, I was looking to get this without a gap at all. But the weird thing about it is that if you unhinge it, you know, it's just when it tightens, it bows out like that, if you can see. So, I don't know what the hell's causing that. And also, I kind of don't know how to fix it either, so I gotta figure out what's going on with that. So, problems with this. Well, the first one is that first putting this in, putting this hinge in here, it does stick this part of the window far too far out, and it should be closer in, obviously, because if this were a stock window, like this, like if this had the holes in the sill here and here that I could stick the bracket into, like this would basically be right up against, like this would be like right up against, there wouldn't really be a gap there. But because it's like this and it's a retrofit, some gap is always going to exist. So the one thing that I heard some people doing, and it made a lot of sense to me, was to bend this channel in a little bit to bring this, you know, to bring the window closer to the vehicle. And that did work, and I did it a little bit on this side, but I think I need to get something in there and do a little bit more bending, because hopefully I can get it so that it seals nicely all the way around, and I don't have any water ingress or anything like that. I did it on this side over here. I bent it in a lot more, and excuse my marks there. Those are just from a dirty screwdriver. But I bent it in a lot more on this side, and it looks like it seals up a whole mess nicer than the other side. You know, it doesn't even look like there's any gaps at all around the entire thing. I just have to make the mount for this. I haven't done that yet. And speaking of that, do you see a problem there? Do you see a reason why I think I want to redo this? Because I know I can. And it's this. Right there. That ugly sack of shit right there. And I'll tell you guys a story, but I won't. Because it's long and it's boring, and basically the moral of it is take your goddamn time. So with this, I was very, very excited to finally get everything done, and like, oh my god, I finally got pop-out windows. What a treat. And I guessed where the holes would be. Where this is like, well, you know, this is obviously where the latch should be. So I did a few things wrong. One, I guessed, obviously. And I was like, oh, yeah, I guess it goes there. And I'd, you know, screw the stuff in there and then try and tighten it. And it would, you know, and try and close it. And, of course, it would be too tight. And it wouldn't close properly. And I'm like, well, shit. So I'd have to move it in and drill more holes and move it in and drill more holes, which is what that looks like. So I've bought some new felt, like some more felt from TMI, or not felt, this material from TMI, and I'm going to redo this post just because I can't, like, that's just, I've been, like, honestly, I've been sleeping on this issue for like probably a week of like, do I really care? Oh, it'll be a pain in the ass, or maybe it doesn't look that bad. Like, at the end of the day, man, like, if I've been thinking about it for a week, I should probably just go out and fix it. Like, it's going to be an issue I need to address. So that's what I'm going to do. And honestly, it's not that bad. You just, you know, take off this and then bend these back a little bit to expose this part and then get it off. And it's honestly not that big a deal, like, frankly. So I'm not too concerned about it. But at least I know it works. You know, at least I know it works. So that's this side. And over, oh my god, my light source. And so here's what's underneath the pillar. There's 3 holes, 1, 2, 3, that appear like it's what goes over this, but actually it doesn't, because the rearmost hole is a lot further away. If you can see that, it's actually like right in here that you would have to drill. But these 2 holes here actually line up perfectly for, or damn near perfect. Is it perfect? Yeah, damn near perfect for this hinge. Whoops, almost dropped it. So you can use those, but then you have to drill a hole there, a little further out. And I'm using riv nuts for this, and they're really easy. Like, I don't know what my trepidation was with riv nuts, but they're damn easy, and they weren't an issue at all. It's so simple. You just thread the nutted end at the all the way to the end there, and then push it in the hole and just tighten it up, and it sticks, and it's good. So I like that, because my first attempt was to use just like a regular old sheet metal screw, like everything else on this car is held on with, and just use that as, you know, well, let me just drill a hole and then put a sheet metal screw in there and that should be good enough. It's not. You try and tighten it, it pops out. It's just like, you know, there's just too much tension on there. So at least with this, there's a lot more threads holding it in place. It's a lot more secure. And I can use a bolt instead of a sheet metal screw that eventually is going to like kind of wear down the more in and out you take it. So this is a much better option. It's absolutely a better option. So this side, hopefully I won't screw up like I did the other side. Hopefully this side will be good. I won't have an issue. But yeah, so all I have to do to get this guy back on there, and to prove if this goes on there and it looks good and it seals up all good around here, then all I know I have to do on that side is just bend this in more, and then, you know, get this a little bit more flush to the body, and then I won't have an issue with that gap I see on the other side. And of course, if all this fails and it looks like shit and I hate it, I can just pull this off and put the solid windows in here, and, you know, it's no big deal. But I'm committed, so I'm going to finish it. So all I have to do is just drill a hole in there, get that hinge put on, see how it closes, check my gaps. If it's good, bend that one out a little bit, and then these windows have to go out again, because I need to clean up the residue on the inside of this window from the, what do you call it? From the glue, from the contact cement. Because like there's contact cement like residue like down in here, and it looks like shit, and I want to get that cleaned off. And apparently the best way to do that is to use a hairdryer, and then maybe some acetone, but, you know, melt it and kind of see what happens after that. So that's what I'm going to try. So that's it. Lesson is don't rush, take your time, and don't say good enough, ever. Don't ever say it's good enough until you're happy. I've built this entire car with that thought in my mind, and now, of course, I'm getting close to the point where I can get it back on the road, and of course I'm starting to rush things because I'm excited. You know, it's to be expected, but, you know, I gotta be smarter than that. Yup, this is how it should look. No gaps. Everything's cinched up. Works. This one's a little bit harder to close. Might have to do a little bit of that. But it goes. It definitely goes. So that one's good. So, alright, I guess I'll try and bend this in a little bit more on that side. But the thing about this that sort of sucks is that I don't think I'm going to be able to put the covers on here. Like, really, because I think it's just too bent in now. Like, I don't know how I'm going to fit those covers on this hinge. I might have to run it something like that. Ugh, I don't know. We shall see. We shall see. But, alright. This window's coming back out. I'm going to clean up the channels. And then, you know, get this cleaned up as well, because that's just dirt. And one of the things that I'm going to have to do, like I put this pinch welt on, and it made everything look really, really nice. But the one thing that it started to do is sort of sag this in certain places. This is starting to sag up a little bit. So I think what I might do is on this side of it, maybe stretch it again a little bit, and then re-glue it just cause. Like I don't know if it's relaxed, because I did heat all this stuff when I put it on here, so I don't know if it relaxed over time or what happened. But yeah, I just want to make sure that all this stuff is figured out prior to me putting the windows in and essentially like sealing it up forever. Like, I don't want to run into the scenario where I have to take out a window to redo something. So a little bit of extra work, but also what that means is that I want to make all the stuff like all the holes that have to be cut out in this, I want to do that now. So like the seatbelt hole here, seatbelt hole that's right there, I can feel it. The sunroof stuff, like like where the sunroof crank goes through, like up there. The visors, the sun visor mounts there, and then there's another little one over there somewhere. All those, and then up here, the grab handle for the, where are they? I'm sitting on one. These guys. These grab handles that go like right there, pretty much. I'm gonna cut those off too. And why I want to do that before putting any of the windows in is so that, like, you know, again, when I put the windows in, I'm completely confident that everything's how it's supposed to be. And this little cut is going to be covered up by the pinch welt that goes in this window channel. You know, just trying to make sure it looks as good as it can. Like that post over there started, like, actually relaxed a little bit. So I'm going to pull that one tight again. Yeah. Just want to make sure it's good. Just want to make sure that, you know, it looks as good as it possibly can. Will it be professional? No. But, you know, it'll be as good as I can make it, at least. I have to admit defeat. 'Cause here's the thing. I can get it to work. I can get it to go in there and, you know, bolt in there and bolt in here, and it functions, right? Like I can push it in and out, and I can lock it in place so it's not going to fall out. But it's not good enough for me. The seal is terrible. Like, and it's something with when this is locked, when this is put in the locked position, it obviously pushes this part of the window in, but then it also pushes this part of the window out. So this part right here, a gap always forms right here. Like even if there isn't a gap when it's like maybe unlatched but not all the way out, maybe it's like here, there is no gap here. But then when I tighten it, it pushes it out. So the window's flexing. Like, so the window's obviously like flexing or something. Like, I don't know. I'm not smart enough to figure out exactly why that's happening, but I think it has something to do with the fact that the window's flexing, or I thought maybe it was hitting at the bottom here and it was like pulling in and out, but I adjusted it a lot of different ways to bring it up a little bit more so that I knew for a fact that it wasn't hitting on the corners there, but it still did it. So I'm left with a couple options. The first option is live with it and say, hey, I got pop-outs, cool, but then have a gap here that water can get in, air can get in, moisture can get in. I don't like it. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. The other option is just go back to just erase all my sins here and just put the solid windows back in, which I might do. That's definitely the path of least resistance with this, is if I just put the fixed windows in, then it's good, it's no problem, everything's cool. And then my backseat passengers get to have a slightly shitty time because they don't have any airflow in here. The other option, which I don't want to give up on yet, I just don't know of a way to get it right, is to make another bracket for this. Now there is a guy online who did this before, and he made this big aluminum piece that bolted there and there and there and there, and then came over here, and then he bolted the window frame to this, or the hinge. This guy, he bolted that to this piece of angle aluminum that he put in here, which pushed it even further out of the window, which was very interesting to me, because I always thought that my issue was that because when this is mounted in here, it pushes the window out a lot more than it probably should be. Like, ideally, the window should be, I would say, probably like 1/8 of an inch closer to the body. You know, that's at least what I would think. And also, when you think about it, and I can't do this because I'm filming with one hand, but when these brackets were in here, and it had the vents attached, not the vents, the whatever the hell you call them, the pivots mounted right there and right there. And the window was placed a lot further in, which makes sense, because instead of the seal just laying on top, it was actually pushed in, which, you know, is the way that this is supposed to work. So, I don't know. Doing it that way, which basically adds even more depth, or even pushes it even further away from the body, doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. I don't see how that fixes it. But having a bracket that goes the entire length of the window, I think would stop the flexing problem of it, like, you know, kind of doing that whenever it's tightened up. So is there a way I can have my cake and eat it too, and get this mounted on here, and then also have, you know, a plate that goes the length and all that? And I would like to use aluminum to do that because it's strong and light. And I have some aluminum out back I could use to get this done. Maybe I will. I don't know. I do like the idea of it being a more solid piece instead of just relying on this flimsy. It's not so flimsy. Like, it does work, but like this not so great. Just this is the only thing holding the window in place and dealing with all the tension that's put on it. I don't know. The one option I thought was, well, if I just wanted to sit in closer, then I can just take off these little, what do you call them, right there. And I can grind those off. And it's true, and I tried it, and it does sit better. But it still flexes. You know, the bottom still flexes when tension's put on it, so. I don't know. I tried sleeping on it. I had this thing in and out all day yesterday. I don't know what to do. And there's really only two things I can look at online as far as guides that, you know, sort of say, like, well, here's how I do it. And the one guy, like, made this whole bracket, and the other guy just, you know, bolted it on there, and it worked for him. But it's not working for me. And I don't know why. So at the very least, I'll never upload this video, and at least you guys will know how to put in pop-out window frames. Okay, I'm gonna call this done. Redone, looking much nicer, and much nicer. So, other than putting the pinch welts in here, it's done. I'm going to get different pinch welts. I just have these black guys, but I think it would look much better if it was white. The white looks much better than the black, so I go trade those in and get some white pinch welts for like here and there and all that. And then the covers in here, it's too simple to actually make a video on, but it's just you remove this screw and this screw and get some longer ones. Just pop it over the center of it. Just screw. It's done. Nice and easy, but, you know, works. The posts don't look like a hot mess anymore. They actually look good. And this actually took a lot longer than I wanted it to. Returns with TMI are extremely difficult. And I didn't want to spend the money on this until I got that return figured out, and, like, you know, what their parameters for the return would be, whether they would, you know, do a straight exchange with no money lost out of my pocket, but their policy is kind of crappy. It's a 20% restocking fee. I pay shipping back, so I'm only actually going to be getting like $20 back out of this whole thing, which stinks, but it's better than nothing. And I don't have that enormous roll sitting around anymore, so I'll take it. I actually found the correct post material from a guy locally who's selling stuff off of his old Square, and it just so happened that he had Squareback stuff from my year from TMI in the correct color. Would you imagine that? It's very, very lucky on my part, and he sold me what I needed for $20. So I'll take that any day of the week. And I got a bunch of leftover material too, just in case I want to redo any of these if I'm not happy with them down the line. So that's always nice. So that's it. I'm pretty sure that this video series around these Popouts retrofits, I'm pretty sure was a hot mess. But I mean, if you want them, that's how you do them. Don't expect perfection with the gaps like I did, because according to all the old boys, they never fit well anyways. So what are you trying to do, Mike? So that's that. Measure twice, cut once. Make sure you know what you're doing. Take your time, etc., etc. I'm closing the book on this, and I'm going to go focus on the sunroof. The next things to go in that I'm going to spend money on my next paycheck. This paycheck needs to pay off more of the credit card debt I accrued while I was unemployed. Now that I'm working, that first paycheck coming back is going to pay myself back a little bit of that money I owe myself. And after that, I'm buying windows. And I'm putting this damn thing back on the road. Even if it's in this interior state, I don't care. I want to drive the damn thing. I want to enjoy it. But for now, it's time to focus on the sunroof. And last video with the windlace on and the cover. It's looking pretty good. Doesn't look half bad, does it? Almost like it's supposed to be there. Pretty good.